Time to get going with
It
some real
is.
guests.
We have some wonderful people joining us here in the studio. Michael, how did you come across Norm to bring him on the show today?
I'm not quite sure who wrote to who first, but Norm is a guy I've known about. His name first came up for me when he was with Wart, which was a radio station in Madison.
Our fellow radio
And I remember
pals.
going to some restaurant where Wart was broadcasting live, as I recall. I couldn't get a seat, but we were there. I think probably
Where,
I was
Madison?
with Lester, yeah, in Madison. And that was before we did Live from the Heartland.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
Norm comes out of that. Norm was a friend along with you and I and Lester Dore, too, of the great John Ross, the late great John Ross, the People's reporter.
We were lucky enough to have on Live from the Heartland.
A couple
More
of
than
times,
couple
and at the
times.
Heartland.
Yeah.
And he did spend a week at my house writing and hanging out and doing what he did when he wrote. He's quite a guy.
Quite a guy is right.
So
What's his
Norm
name?
Stockwell is here with us today, and this is Lester Dore.
Hi guys, welcome. Good morning.
Morning.
Let's hear those voices.
Glad to be here.
The
Really
gravelly
glad
guys.
to have you. You also publish the Progressive.
That's true. I started a little over 6 months ago as publisher, excuse me, of the Progressive magazine. It's a 108-year-old. Excuse me, I'm got a cough here. 108-year-old magazine from based in Madison, Wisconsin. But,
Right.
And that was started by Senator LaFollette, who
That's right.
was a
Fighting
Republican.
Bob LaFollette. In the early days of the 20th century, when people were talking about the problems of corporate influence in our politics, and Fighting Bob and the Progressive Party.
Will we ever? Will we ever stop? I don't know. I was reading some of the lectures that you have included in this book. Thank you so much for assembling this stuff. It's really important, and it also includes
Beautiful graphics by
the graphics,
Lester
which
Dore.
we don't do justice to on the radio, obviously.
Yeah, but just so you're clear, you can watch this show in a few days on youtube.com/heartlandmedia.
But will you have the broadsheets then?
I'm going to shoot today, when we shoot the video, we're going to do close-ups.
Okay, we'll,
Right now,
we'll
let's
save
get
our
it ready.
audience from that. Rebel reporting. What is rebel reporting?
Well, let me start out by telling you a little bit of the story of this project. John Ross, amazing people's journalist who worked for well over 2.5 decades in Mexico. He originally went down right after the earthquake in 1985 and
Wow.
stayed in the same room at the Hotel Isabel for all the time he was down there, covering the people's movements of Mexico from the bottom up. John did a series of lectures. He was invited to do a residency at New College in San Francisco in the fall of 2006. And he did this series of lectures for graduate journalism students. And then John asked me to help get them published. And we spent a little bit of time trying to find a publisher and couldn't really get anybody to bite on it. And then John passed away in January of 2011. And at that point I kind of took it on as a project to get this book out. And it took us about 5 years of hammering on the doors of pretty much every publisher you could imagine.
Wow. But you're a
but-
publisher.
Well,
wasn't
book
then.
publishers, right? And I wasn't and was very pleased to have this come out. December of 2015 was the actual release date, and we did some events. We did an event in Mexico City. We did one in San Francisco at a coffee house that John was a regular at, and so.
John was quite a guy. I remember when he was staying at the house, he didn't like where he was sleeping, so he ended up getting the best bed in the house upstairs and spent a week. He was pretty inspirational to be around.
Reading I didn't get through every part of this book, but I love that John Ross, and that you captured it by virtue of putting his lectures down, had some some real specific and simple instructions, one of them being, ir al lugar de los hechos.
Go to the place where it happened, or go to the scene of the crime, as we say. Yeah, I mean, John, basically, his principles of journalism were, first of all, the objectivity that they teach in the classrooms is garbage. There's no such
Animal.
no such thing that everybody comes into a situation with a set of blinders. You know, in my case, it's you know, white American male raised in the you know, North American school system in the latter part of the 20th century, right? That's my blinders. But everybody comes into a situation. What you have to do is you have to be fair and you have to be honest and you have to give voice to the people that you're reporting on. So John said you have to go to the place where it happened to speak to the people that are affected by the policies. You don't report from the press release down. You report from the bottom. Excuse me, the bottom up. Apologize for my cough here.
It's okay. Normally, I'm the coughing person.
You are.
For our audiences, they're used to coughing.
When I first became aware of John, you know, and I didn't know about his history with the Progressive Labor Party. I didn't know about him, you know, in that island in the San Francisco Bay where the prison is. What do we call that prison? Remember?
Pelican Bay?
No, Alcatraz.
Alcatraz.
And but I first became aware of him during the Zapatistas. You know, and Commander X, is that his name? No,
Subcomandante Marcos.
Yeah, so the story of that is John was on the ground and had his ear to the ground and was reporting on what was happening with the Zapatistas before anybody knew about it. In fact, he had the first story about the Zapatistas in the fall of 1993, and nobody would publish it because they didn't think it was not, nobody believed it, basically. And then all of a sudden, January 1st, 1994, the Zapatistas appear on the scene. NAFTA has been implemented in Mexico, and the people of southern Mexico rise up. John was the first one to write a book-length chronicle of the Zapatistas, and he went on to write 2 other books of Zapatista chronicles, basically keeping the North American audience here in the U.S. informed of what was going on in the Mexican reality.
Well, you know, he was a prolific dude. He wrote a lot. But I got to say that book, Monstruo, Monster, it's like a history of Mexico City. It's just, it's thick, it's big, and it's beautiful. It's wonderful. And tell us a bit about that book. And then Lester, I want to get Lester in on it because he went down.
I couldn't find my copy of Monstruo.
It's probably
that
in my
was
house.
that was sort
Maybe
of
at
John's magnum opus. He chronicled the life of the history of Mexico City, the city that he came to live in and love, but also the city that's called the Monster, El Monstruo. And John chronicled the history from early prehistoric time up through the present day with stories of people and stories of actions that happened in Mexico City, and explaining this complex, second largest city in the world to a North American audience in a way that no one else could. When we did the event for the book in Mexico City on January 1st of 2016, some old folks came that just off the street came into the event, and they were talking about how much John meant to them and their community as just a regular guy that walked around the neighborhood and supported people in every different way. And Herman Bellinghausen, the great reporter for La Jornada, talked about how John was able to express the essence of the Mexican struggle to a North American audience in a way that probably no one else could in English.
You know, I'm just remembering he was also a basketball fan. And he did a long poem, I believe, about basketball.
He actually did a book.
Yeah, Cinco Puntos Press, I think, put it out. Our friends down in El Paso, they put it out.
It's interesting that he wound up on this show at the same time that Patty Jones from Patty on the Hardwoods, from our basketball writing.
Taught Coach Russ Bradford how to play the fiddle.
Yeah,
And
was
they
on
hit it
with
off.
John, and those guys hit it off. It was a couple white-haired guys really sharing. It was a beautiful thing, actually, that evolved
So I want to talk a bit about the structure
Yeah.
of the
Please.
book. So it's 4 lectures, and my co-editor, Crystal and Bell, was a student at Madison College in some of these lectures, and so I brought her into the project, and she worked with me, and we had John's notes, we had video recordings, transcripts of these lectures, and we assembled this, and it really, I think, I'm very pleased because it really, his voice jumps out of every page as you read it. And then Amy Goodman wrote an introduction for the book. Bob McChesney, founder of Free Press and staunch advocate of independent media, wrote the foreword. And then the book has the 4 lectures, and then it has an article that John did about Brad Will. Brad Will, an indie media journalist who was killed in Oaxaca in the fall of 2006.
And the teacher's strike.
Actually, while these lectures were being delivered, John was in
Yeah.
San
was John the
Francisco
Black.
delivering these lectures when Brad was killed in October of 2006.
Whatever
And-
happened, did they ever find the people that killed him or the political forces?
Well, they arrested some people. They let them go. It's an ongoing investigation, and it's documented here in this thing. And then the last part of the book is an appendix of links and resources for independent journalists. So it's kind of like the lectures that tell you, what to do, the article that gives you an example of how to do it, and then the appendix that gives you the tools to go out and do it yourself. And then right in the middle of the book, we have these wonderful illustrations by my good friend Lester Dore, who illustrated some of John's writing and did a poster for his visit to Madison in 2010 when he was touring with the book El Monstruo. And so we have those reprinted in there, and Lester can talk more about his work on creating these wonderful broadsides that include John's words and Lester's art.
Well, let's just flip over to Lester. Those of you who have been around this show may have heard him before. Those of you who know Katie and I and know the Heartland Cafe
Lester's artwork.
Lester's artwork. He did all the Heartland artwork, the original artwork. He did a lot of stuff even for the People's Law Office and posters, and he did the marijuana leaf and the peace symbol. He did the Seed newspaper. He did a lot of stuff. Good morning, Lester.
Let's let Lester
Good
talk.
morning.
Hi, Lester.
Yeah,
Tell us about John Ross and how you met him.
I met John Ross in Mexico City. I think you, Michael, turned me on to him, and I contacted him, and I went down to the Hotel Isabel, and we had dinner with him and a couple other people. And I have to say that a lot of the conversations that I was in, that John Ross was a part of, I didn't understand a whole lot of it because they would shift over into Spanish.
Yeah.
And mine was not that great. Anyway, when John was going to be coming through Madison on a book tour to publicize both El Monstruo and another book,
Iraqi Girl.
Iraqi Girl, yeah. Norm asked me to do a poster, and I did a poster, and as I was working on the illustration, I realized that I could print a couple of broadsides. So I contacted John, and he sent me a poem, the short heroic life of Praxias Guerrero, and we also decided that I could do a broadside using the last paragraph of El Monstruo. So I got to work. I made a couple of wood engravings, got some typeset, and had them printed letterpress in
Old style.
old style and on good paper, and they turned out really, really nice.
Where would people find these broadsides
And the
if
book.
they wanted to?
Give us some addresses
Right.
here, guys.
Yeah.
They would have to contact me, and they can do that. Just go to my Facebook page, Lester Dore,
Lester.
For the-
in Madison, Wisconsin.
For the book, we have a website. I should link to your Facebook page on there
Okay.
too, Lester. But we
Yeah,
have a
get
website,
modern, you old guys.
rebelreporting.com, which gives people the opportunity to order copies of the book and also read some of the reviews. And in fact, this interview here will probably be posted up there as well. We have pictures of John signing those broadsides that Lester produced here in the book.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
Yeah. He was doing that after a meal that I prepared in his honor, I made him a guajolote and mole negro, and even the
Lester is a
Mexican
good
guys
cook,
there
let me
said it
tell
was
you.
good, so.
Well, that's
Hey.
pretty darn good, Lester, for an Oklahoma Cajun dude
Yeah,
like yourself. Really, for those who don't know Lester Dore, do check out his website because Lester has been doing incredible organizing through his art and educating through his art the entire time I've known you, which is now over 40 years.
yep, starting
Yeah.
out, yeah.
42 or 3 years.
I'm so glad I met you in the seed office and asked you to do the logo for Rising Up Angry.
Yep,
Are
we've been
you,
friends ever since.
Let me ask you, Lester, what's the fondest memory you have of John Ross, either in Mexico or up in Madison?
Just in Madison, at my dinner table, enjoying his mole negro and hanging out.
Okay, I want to shift gears a little bit since we've got Norm.
No time.
I got a couple minutes, Kate.
Okay, shift
Um,
gears, Michael.
I would like, you guys are both up in Madison. You guys were both involved in the large demonstrations a number of years ago when Scott Walker was trying to undermine and maim the unions.
And succeeded.
And tell us what's going on in Wisconsin, your thoughts on the election, the future mainly.
Yeah,
Because
I mean,
we're
I
looking
think-
for hope.
I think that one of the things that is really clear is Wisconsin is kind of the playbook that they're using at the national level now. And one of the things that we have to offer, I think, is some advice, about what happened in
In other words,
Wisconsin.
just turning out thousands and thousands of people
Well-
isn't going to make it on its own.
They are going to move very fast and very
Recklessly.
aggressively. Well, and very aggressively to
Mhm.
deconstruct everything they can, and that was certainly what we saw in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
The change, if you look at the Wisconsin government now from what it was 6 years ago, the change is just very, very noticeable. I was in the office of the DNR, the Department of Natural Resources, and just sitting in their cafeteria and listening to people talk, and I realized that all of the folks that used to work in the Department of Natural Resources because they love the environment have all been replaced by people that are just technocrats, that are just pushing papers and enacting rules and regulations or removing rules and regulations
Yeah.
in many cases. And those kind of things happening throughout the state government. And so I think we should be very aware of some of the lessons of Wisconsin. Wisconsin at the time, happened at the same time as the Arab Spring, and there was a symbiotic relationship where workers in Egypt were holding up signs in solidarity with workers in Wisconsin, and workers in Wisconsin were looking to Egypt as a model, and Occupy Wall Street also took some of its lessons from the uprising in Wisconsin in the spring of 2011. And yet, the way that they've managed to use money and the gerrymandering of voting districts to secure power, now in about, 33 state houses around the country are dominated with a right-wing Republican majority in both houses of the legislature and the governorships. This is, it's a long game that the right has been playing, and they've
Right.
done a very good job of kind of building the groundwork to grab control.
We've referred to that a lot in the ALEC plan that is running all those state houses. What's your next move as a publisher of a really important magazine like The Progressive? What do you have to be careful of? What do you have to go after?
Well, I mean, of course, right now is a very dangerous time to be in the media because the media is being painted as, particularly the independent media, is being painted as fake news and as the enemy. I think, in the spirit of John Ross, John would have said the media should be the enemy of power,
Right,
but not the enemy of the everyday working
That's the
people.
first song I
Right.
think of.
So at the
Transition.
Progressive, what we try to do is we try to tell people stories, to tell stories of movements, to tell stories of everyday folks that are struggling to make a better, more peaceful, more just world. And we do that in every issue of the magazine. We also do it on our website at progressive.org, where we have new web content every day of the week. And then we also have the magazine articles that we post on the web as well as in the print version of the magazine. This current issue, the March issue that just came out, you see a Donald Trump bear character fighting off the bees of people's.
It's a great cover.
People's opposition. It's interesting because it sort of reminds me of a cartoon in The Economist at the time of the WTO protests in Seattle, where again the activists were portrayed as bees that were coming after the corporate-dominated globalization.
Well, some of these things come back to roost round and round again, as everything you've said just refers to. Norm Stockwell, Lester Dore, thank you for making it up this morning to be on our show. The book is Rebel Reporting. John Ross speaks to independent journalists. And Norman Stockwell, where can people find that?
Again, rebelreporting.com.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, brothers, for coming on the show. Our next guest is going to be Galen Weston, a musician from Toronto, and we're going to hear first a recording of his. He's going to do Cinco de Mayo while we make the change, and he's coming in. We're going to talk to him and do a little bit of live music. Stay tuned. You're listening to Live from the Heartland on WLUW 88.7, Chicago Sound Alliance.